And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Egizia, Shifting Sands. This is a reprint, redone version of the original Egizia, which I've never actually played. So this one here has different rules slightly than the first one did, a more streamlined way. So I can't really compare to the old one, but I'm going to just talk about the new version here. So from Stronghold Games, the Egyptian theme I think is really cool, but I've been kind of numbed to it in board games because board games have used it like, look, pyramids, obelisks, and whatever. It's just a kind of a background theme, which often turns out boring. So this one, the cover looks phenomenal. The components look phenomenal. I heard it was a good game. Is it true? At the beginning of each round of the game, you're going to be putting cards face up randomly next to the river, drawn from the pile that matches the round. This is for rounds 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5. Players are then going to take turns placing ships down the river. Your first ship can go anywhere. You know, it can go on these spaces here that will give you actions. It can go on a card, which gives you that card, or you can park it in one of these spots where you'll be able to build in that section. However, once you put a ship out, you cannot put a ship above it. So your ships after that, if I put my first ship here, for example, my second ship could go here to take this card. And then my third ship, I might put it here to take this action. And then my fourth ship, I might go all the way down, here. I just can't go back farther north as I'm placing these ships. As players get cards, they're going to put them in front of themselves. Each player starts with a starter card where this will produce stone, this produces grain. This card I just took is an anytime card where I can spend it to get grain. And there are other various cards. We'll talk a little bit more about them later. But you have some workers. You have 3 different color workers along with this purple overseer. And then down here you keep track of how much stone you'll collect over the course of the game. After all players have placed all their boats, then the mining phase goes off, and each quarry card that you have will give you that much stone. The feeding phase happens after that, where you'll get grain for each of the fields that you have, as long as that season's in. This disc will be moving back and forth, and you can see that if I have this field, for example, which gives me 7 grain, it will only work if I'm here. If I'm here, that red field doesn't work. And if I have this field here with the yellow, it's only going to work at these top. If it's down here at the bottom, only my starter, or if I have this grain field, are going to produce grain. The amount of grain that you need depends on your workers. So I have 3 workers that are 1, plus 1, that's 2. So I'm going to need a total here of 5 grain as I start this round. If you don't have enough grain, you're going to lose points equal to the distance. There is a grain track here on the board so if you have missing grain, you'll lose 3 points. So I want to move this up so that if I am missing grain, I will not lose points. And if you get all the way to the top, you can actually sell your surplus grain to get positive points. Now you're going to be moving on these tracks by placing in these different actions here. This one moves you up 1 on both the grain and the stone track. The stone track will give you stones, and at the end of the game, if you get it to the top, you'll get extra points per stone. Some of these will move your workers up in their strength. Some of these will let you move this blue ring here at the bottom of the board. Cards will have sometimes an immediate effect. Like this one says, advance in the grain market twice. Some are different fields. This one's a 2 grain field and a quarry. Some have a permanent special ability. Like this one, I can attach to a card and change its color by 1. A red turns to a yellow, or a yellow turns to a green. This one here says whenever I build a Sphinx card, I get an extra card. So you have to decide which of these cards are worth it. Because other than taking these cards and these actions, and by the way, between rounds, you'll place out tokens and change the actions randomly, so it's going to be in a different order each time. But other than doing those 2 things, building the different spots on the board is really important. And the ships can come in here, and there can be 3 ships in each area, although other ships can come in and try to build something only if one of the players can't build something. And each ship is attached to an area, so this dock here is attached to this area here, where you got to pay stone and use worker strength to build. When building, you can use one of your workers plus your overseer if you want. So I could, for example, if I want to build if I needed a level 2 worker, I would spend this one. If I needed 6, I could spend this one and the overseer, but I couldn't add these two together. So this essentially means 3 times over the course of the round, I can use my 3 different workers plus the overseer to one of them to build various things on the board. You also will be spending your stone because you need stone. So for example, on the obelisk here, when you build, each brick that is built must be built on the lowest level and moving this one up. So I might build the first brick, green might pay 3 and build the next 2 bricks. The cost of workers and bricks is listed there. You will get that many points, and depending where you build, you move up on the grain and stone tracks. Either one, or once you get up here, you move up on both of them. Below it here, on the pillars, you build on your own section. So yellow would build here, while green would build down here. These, you pay the cost at the bottom, so you're not building on top of somebody else, and you get points for building these. And whoever's the farthest on these pillars will get bonus points at the end of the game. Also, when you reach this spot, there's a bonus, and when you reach this spot here, you'll get this big purple tile that you can use once per round to do something. This lets you place 2 boats. And these special abilities are going to change from game to game. You'll put different ones on top of the 2 different pyramids. In the second building area, you can build the pyramid or add to these statues here, these monuments. When you build the pyramid, you got to build on the lower level, paying again workers and bricks. And you can only start each brick above it when the 2 below it are built. So maybe yellow builds one there, then I can build up here, and so on and so forth. When a row is completely filled, you're going to get bonus points, whoever has the most bricks in that row. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most bricks in the pyramid will get 5. To build in this next section, you will basically be putting a brick there and moving it up. They have costs here. These will score you points at the end of the game. These are going to be different from game to game. There's plenty of cards to put there. And this one gives you points based on how good your yellow and red field productivity, how many bricks you build in the obelisk, and how big your total crew strength is between your 4 different characters. And you have to both get the brick up to that level and accomplish it, and then you'll get points 2, 5, or 10. The third place that you can build stuff is down here, where you'll be able to draw cards from this Sphinx here, and these cards will give you points at the end of the game as long as you've done whatever it says. Is my yellow crew 5 strength? Bingo, 3 points. Here I score 2 points for each of my majority levels in the pyramid. Here I get, if I have 2 bricks in the obelisk, colonnade, pyramid, and statues, I get 4 points. And so you'll be able to draw more cards based on what you spend there, but you'll only be able to keep 1. And that's it. You're going to play through 5 rounds of this. At the end of the game, you'll do some final scoring based on Sphinx cards and the statues here, and whoever has the most points is the winner. The board here is really gorgeous. Man, look how nice those pyramids look. And I just really like the whole thing. It's hard for you to tell maybe from video, but there's some layering in the ink too. And so just, it really stands out on the board itself. I really like how these look. These are ridiculously huge. I don't know why they're so big, but they're cool. Lots of little wooden pieces, boats and bricks that look good. My only complaint about components would probably be these tokens feel a little bit less quality than the rest of the game. But the cards and everything else, it's all very clear. The rule book makes sense. It's just a really, really nice production. Hey, it's a good game. I'm so pleased about that. This game has a lot of things that I like. I love the place your boat as far down the river as you want. I see some really good cards there. I really want them. I can shoot all the way down the river and get them, but then I miss everything above it. That's tough decisions. I can start at the top and go slowly, but then other people will jump down and grab all the good stuff. I jump down to one of the almost bottom cards. And then you're like, well, I'll just get the stuff at the top. Then I start grabbing everything at the bottom. And you're like, well, I wanted some of that, so maybe I should shoot to the bottom. So that's a great aspect of the game. That's really cool. And the order that the cards come up, some cards give you the feed your people stuff, some give you the rocks. And I have to say, as an aside, I'm not a big fan of feeding your people in games. And this one, I didn't mind at all because you completely control it. I can decide to move my workers' strengths up but then I better make sure I get the crops to feed them. And it's a nice counterbalance. And there's a little tiny smidge of take that, as you might move the weather so it hurts other people if they take in too many of the red and yellow fields, which provide a lot of wheat, but only during certain seasons. I also like the building aspect. It's not that hard to figure out. Which areas do I want to build in? I kind of like those Sphinx guards, but when you go down and you draw them, you're like, ooh, I need to do these specific goals. They give you also a bit of focus. This is not a complex game. I've taught this game to people who haven't played many games before, and it went over really well because the concept of placing your boat lower on the river, the concept of building bricks in a pyramid, you need two to put one on top of it, the concept of flipping workers over and spending stone, all that makes sense. Few minor things like the stone track and the grain track. You know, it makes sense to move up them, but the stone track just gives you stone and then gives you points at the end of the game. The grain track stops you from losing points if you can't feed your people and gives you bonuses for how far you know, if you can't, if you have excess grain, and those things also might tie into Sphinx cards. So everything kind of ties in together, and that's not so readily apparent in the first game, but it's still an easy game to get to the table. Add to that a gorgeous production, a fairly quick playing time, 45 minutes to an hour, and I like it. It has some nice deep play involved in it, and yet feels more frothy than your typical worker placement game. I look at the cards, what the order they come out in. I get different Sphinx cards. Each game I play, I'm like, this time I'm going to try to build more in the obelisk and see how high up and just go for straight points. Or I'm going to go for these monuments down here and try to get the different things that way. Not things that I sit there and go, ooh, that's a clever play I never thought of. Fairly straightforward stuff, but straightforward stuff that works. A great addition, nice game. Egizia Shifting Sands, recommend it. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower.